We got 15 games on the MLB card. I have 14 bets and an endless stream of information to share. Let's get it.
Yeah, I'm so fresh like the morning. Mouth wide open like they yawning. Every time they see me, they in G-Stride. Homie, this is too far. Homie, I feel too alive. You can see me like Illuminati. You can see me like Illuminati. But I'm trying to...
What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the closing line. Before I get into anything, if you're here and you're in chat right now, you're listening to me, please do me a favor. Please like this video, share it on YouTube, share it on X, share it on socials. I'd very greatly appreciate it. I put in a ton of work to come fully prepared, as I would say, armed to the teeth with information, digging in the weeds to find the best bets and the best angles to attack today. So with that said, I would really appreciate that. And let's get to it, man. We usually start with some type of philosophy to talk about, right? Whether it's the dangers of tribal knowledge, the importance of emotional control, how important it is to keep evolving as a gambler. But today I want to start off with something more of an educational subject as it relates to MLB markets. You know, that's the markets is really the element that turned me into a profitable sports bettor in the first place. Understanding the market, it's where I spend most of my time because it's where I believe I can sustain my edge. And the graphic I'm about to pull up is from my own handmade database that I manually maintain each and every week. It's very important we have clean data to work with, which is exactly what we're looking at in this graphic. And I think that this is the perfect graphic to illustrate how I'm looking at markets when I talk about market history or a market profile. And looking at this specifically, we're looking at how does the total range impact market efficiency and win rates for the home team. So you can look at the green bar, that's the home favorites. The blue bar is home dogs. You can see the sample size. We're looking at a sample of almost 6,000 games. So it's a very big sample, and it's definitely something worth noting. So you can see, looking at the green bar, you can see that home team's win percentage declines as the total rises. Why is that? It's because there's implied volatility. And it's more correlated with home favorites, but it's still very present in home dogs. You can see that stair stepping down with the blue bars from 48 to 46 to 43%. Then it does get a little bit of it goes the other way at 10 plus runs. But I still think, you know, you could say, but Troy, it's only 1%. Like, what's the difference between 59%, 58%, 57%? It's immaterial. I'll tell you this, the bookies will ban your ass if they knew you had a measly 1% edge. 1% is all you need to end up in their black book. So be very careful with how you maneuver when you have this information. Line movement is much more efficient. That's one thing. The second thing is line movement is much more efficient when the total is between 8 and 8.5. And I think what that's telling me, this is a massive sample, and that's where most of the games fall into. But you can see how the line part of this graph, how it peaks at 8 and 8.5, and that's where most of the sample exists. And I think what that's telling me is the total suggests a more concise forecast, right? 8.5 is the average total in the MLB. So they're very confident in their numbers when they're putting it in that range. The matchup variables are controllable and understood by the algorithm, thus increasing the efficiency on the steam. I think that's very important. The graphic doesn't do any good with one game in particular. It's supposed to help us understand the configuration of the market in its entirety, how influential certain variables actually are. Now, to really get the full picture, and what I do on a daily basis is you need to add additional layers, right? Line movement, size of move, the cash flow. Is the game in division, out of division? Because that definitely flips the market in some cases. Is the total moving towards the over, towards the under? All things we could look at to get the full picture of what a market looks like. And I appreciate you pulling that graphic up, Vic. Thank you very much. And with that being said, I want to do a lot more information just like this moving forward, covering markets, covering sports betting philosophy, and how to use the market to your advantage. Because at the end of the day, that's my level of expertise. You know, I can give you a bunch of matchup information. Anybody can go out there and spit you matchup information, but I doubt anybody's in the weeds of the market actually documenting line movement and cash flow and all the variables that make up the full piece of the pie and are putting their heart, their blood, their sweat, and their tears into it like I am. Let's get into the actual slate itself because I'm ready to hammer it, and I've moved on most of these spots. First game up, let's go MLB first because we got a lot to talk about. And if anything on the back end, you know, we'll shorten the time when it comes to NHL and NBA, which is definitely not where my expertise or where my focus is really being put at this point in the season. Guardians and Angels is the first game up. Okay. We're looking at 22% of the bets, 50% of the cash coming in on the Angels. Per odds logic, 60% of bets, 95% of the cash coming in on the Angels. That's a lot of money coming in on the Angels, but I think that we see a market that's very telling in this situation. I'm going to get to that. This line opened at minus 136. Let's see where this line is now. We've seen a 7-cent move towards the Guardians. However, that's definitely not the case in the first five, as that first five line is continuing to move towards the Angels. And that's the way I bet this game. Yesterday, I was on the Guardians first five. Today, I'm on the Angels first five. And the reason I'm doing that is because the matchup itself, the market, obviously the market, obviously we have the first five discrepancy. The first five price is moving towards the Angels. The full game price is moving towards the Guardians. And when that happens, I'm always hammering it. We don't necessarily have the third variable in that, which is a 15-cent split, unless we can see these updated markets right now. And we are seeing a pretty good minus 105 plus 116. We are seeing more than a 15-cent split. So this meets the full criteria of the first five full game discrepancy. This is a game you have to bet the first five, in my opinion. And I look at the matchup, and I think it absolutely correlates. You look at Sony, 8 starts, 1.59 whip, 6.15 ERA, 5.59 xERA. The Angels versus right-handed pitchings are 29th. Since all these numbers versus right-handed pitching, left-handed pitching, the bats versus pitcher handedness will all be on 420. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want at least 500 games, 500 at-bats in my sample size versus right-handed pitching, and at least 250 in my sample size versus left-handed pitching. And that's what the 420 date will give us. At what point have we seen enough of Slade Cecconi in this league? He's shown absolutely no sign of any improvement. And it don't matter if you're a good lineup, bad lineup, if you're hot or if you're cold. If Slade Cecconi's on the mound, you're going to break out of that slump. And right-handed hitters are crushing Slade, and that's really the red flag for me. They got a 256 OBA, 724 OPS, 183 whip. He has reverse splits. LA is only 22nd versus right-handed pitching, but Slade with his reverse splits serves more as a lefty. And that's evidenced by those splits themselves. Sweeper and curveball grade out amongst the worst in the league. And I want to attack Cecconi. And on the other end, I want to buy Urania, because when I watch Urania pitch, I see the making of somebody who could be a superstar in the league. Now, I don't want to go out on a limb quite yet, but when I have gone out on a limb on these young pitchers and young players, like especially in the NFL, I've absolutely hammered them. There's many, many examples of this. Urania, 4 starts, 157 whip, 3.22 ERA, 3.26 xERA. The only issue this guy has is his command, his walks. His pitch mix, in my opinion, is elite. His most thrown pitch is a changeup, and it's absolutely dirty. It breaks into the right-hand corner of the plate and falls out of the sky. It's followed up by a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. For a rookie, this guy has a mix that he can develop on and build on and really dominate the league. For a rookie, his chase rate and ground ball percentage is off the charts, and it's because of that nasty, nasty pitch, that changeup. Now, on Baseball Savant, you could actually go ahead and watch every changeup he's thrown. When I watch that changeup, I think it's the best changeup that I've seen. I watch a lot of baseball, turns out. Also, versus left-handed hitters, 40 at-bats he has on the season. Left-handed hitters versus Urania, 125 batting average, and he has a 469 OPS, a 1.18 whip. The changeup is clearly giving these left-handed hitters problems. Guardians are going to have at least 7 left-handed hitters in their lineup. This is a perfect matchup, a perfect market to back the Angels in the first five. I'm on the Angels first five money line. I bet it at plus 105. I also bet the Angels first five plus a half, minus 130 for a half a unit. So we got a full unit on the full game on the money line first five, and a half a unit on the first five run line. It's because if there's a tie game, I want to put some money in my pocket. I think that this is one of the best bets on the board. And I'm sorry, I didn't get to holler at the chat. I didn't get a chance to holler at the chat because I'm so damn locked in. I put so much work into this slate. I'm ready to cash it, brother. What's up, 2 Cent? What's up, James? Appreciate you checking in. Cooper Betts, my boy. Toby Lane. Ron Lofton. Thank you, Ron McMahon. My boy, always in chat supporting me. Like I said, man, share it, please. Please. I work my ass off to bring you the best quality I possibly can in the time amount I'm allotted day over day when these lines start to open. So, yes, please share it, and I'd appreciate that. Throw a like down there, too. Next game up, Orioles-Yankees. I was on the Orioles money line and the under yesterday. I cashed both of those, each for a half unit, but still it was felt very good to get that money. And here again, we're looking at all the cash coming on the Yankees, 80% plus of bets cash, no matter how you slice it, what source you reference. And we're looking at the Yankees, who opened at minus 166, and we're looking at this massive 14, 15-cent move, depending on what book you look at, towards the Orioles. The total opened at 9. We're down to an 8.5. And with a flat market, historically, this is, the Orioles, there's a massive range of projected outcomes between 42 and 51% of the time, especially when you're looking at division matchups. But once we build in this line movement towards the Orioles, home team, we're looking at a small sample because we're looking at a divisional game. We're looking at a divisional game with the market moving towards the under, line moving towards the home dog. Small sample, but the worst sample in this whole bunch through every layer is 50% on the home team's money line. This is exactly why I backed the Orioles yesterday, because of this exact market. The only issue is Will Warren's a pitcher that I kind of want to be I want to be able to back him, especially after a bad start. He's been electric, but there's a few concerns. His last start, he got torched by Texas, who's not a very good lineup. 4 innings pitched, 6 earned runs, and only one of his last 7 starts were on the road. If you took the last year, the second time he's seen the team, basically last year, he saw the Orioles 2 times. The second time he's seen them, he got blitzed. Baltimore's much better versus right-handed pitching, but they're about league average. Yesterday, they seen the lefty, obviously, and couldn't touch him until the 7th inning. You got Rogers on the other side, who, he's going up against the Yankees. Rogers has been great the past 2 seasons. He got 3.63 xERA. You look at New York since April 20th, they're second versus left-handed pitching, but they're Jekyll and Hyde. They shell Kikuchi. They get blanked by Detmers. They shell Cole Reagans. They get blanked by Peyton Toll, who K'd him 11 times. But Rogers does give us some reason to be concerned. His fastball, his off-speed run value went from the high 90s to the sub-30s. His velo is down on his fastball. His K rate and walk rate are going in the wrong direction. But again, all this, and he still has a 3.65 ERA. He has great numbers versus Yankees lineup. He's lights out versus left-handed hitters, so you can cross off Bellinger, Grisham, Jazz, and Wells, although Rice, who I think is the best offensive player in the Yankees lineup, is still going to be a problem. The first 5 line has moved 15 cents in their direction, just like the full game line. I'm only looking towards the Orioles on the money line in this spot. And, I cashed for the unit, half unit on the Orioles money line, half a unit on the under yesterday. I don't hit a lot of games where I'm betting Yankees games at all. This is definitely my weak spot, the AL East in general. I haven't moved on this specific game because I don't know what to expect from Rogers, who, he gave up 3 earned runs in 1.2 innings his last time out. Then he missed a start. I don't know if he's exactly right. So I'm going to pass on this game, but there's no way I'd be caught dead with the Yankees in my pocket. Beautiful. Let's keep going. Let's see if anyone in the chat is on this game. On Pirates, LAD, moneyline parlay, -135. I love that swig. I think that Pirates game is saying that the Pirates are absolutely going to smash that team. We'll get to it. Oracle, I appreciate that. Always bringing the love. Rays -1.5. Uh-oh. Isaac Kelly, thank you, brother. Thank you for joining, showing the love, man. Let us know if you're riding, which I think you might be in some of these spots. Maybe not on your team, though. Maybe not on the Doyers. But we'll get there. Okay, next game up, we're looking at exactly who 2 cents talking about, the Pirates and the Rockies. Right now, obviously, all the action's coming in on Skeens and Pitt. Nobody wants to buy the Rockies. They're the one team where they could actually have an upward mobility and not catch the public's attention. This line opened up -328. It's continued to move towards the Pittsburgh Pirates, which is a massive price. The total opened 7.5, juice to the over. And let's actually see where this is, because I did move on the over in this game. I'm not an over better. 90% of my bets on totals are on the under, but I bet 2 overs today. And every time I bet an over, I'm very uncomfortable. But I want to be more liberal betting overs, because it's a hole in my process. If I'm only betting unders and I'm never betting an over, that's a problem. That's something I have to patch up. I have to Band-Aid. I have to upgrade. I have to evolve and start moving on these overs when the market's so damn favorable. And if you look at the Pirates as favorites of -200 or higher, they're 3-2 straight up, 2-3 on the run line, 4-1 to the over. 4 of the 5 games in that sample had 13 or more runs, which absolutely blew my mind. So you're looking at this massive home favorite. So all these games had Skeens on the mound, right? Every game the Pirates are -200 or higher, Skeens is on the mound. And we're seeing games where 4 of the 5 times this has happened, 13 or more runs were scored. That's pretty shocking to me. And they've never been priced over -300, let alone -340. So this is definitely a different situation than that exact sample. I think this is telling me that Lorenzen, the pitcher for the Colorado Rockies, is trash. And you look at his underlying numbers and you see nothing but trash. 8 starts, 1.90 whip, a 5.77 xERA. He throws 25 different pitches in his pitch mix. None of them are good. His K rate's down from 21 to 13% year over year, and left-handers embarrass this character. The Rockies can't be truly competitive with this guy in the rotation, in my opinion. He's a laughing stock of the MLB. When I watch him pitch, I've always seen him get blown up. And you could argue, like, hey, he's only had, on the road, right? Because at home, you have to discount his home starts because it's in the thin air. It's in altitude in Colorado. My pushback on that is he's only had one good start, and it was on the road at the New York Mets with a 7.5 total. Now, and that was a much more competitive price range. We're not talking about a minus 350, 7.5 price. This is not a wind suppressed ballpark at the moment. Might be a little bit more defensive oriented, but I see this price and I think he's about to get hammered. I mean, he went to Houston. He threw 2.2 innings, 8 hits, 2 earned runs. He pitched in the 7th inning, down 9-4 against the Padres. He allowed 0 runs. I guess you could point to that and say, hey, he pitched well on the road here, but he faced Andujar, Furman, and Cronenworth. I mean, I'm not impressed with that. If you look at Pittsburgh, they're 9th versus right-handed pitching, since April 20th. They crush at home. The splits with their bats, the Pirates, home to road is night and day, and they hit left-handed. I expect the left-handed hitters in the Pittsburgh lineup to dominate. So I moved on the over in this spot. I could see this playing out a few different ways where the Pirates get a lead. The Rockies basically throwing the white in the towel, and the Pirates push this over the total themselves. But I do think the Rockies bats are good enough, and they have proven that they've gotten to Skeens in the past. So maybe the Rockies could get us 2-3 runs. And then I'd really love the odds of this total going over. So I'm on the over. Low total bases over. Yeah, the lefty. So a lefty, and I like the low look. That's actually, Stead 365. I think that's a sharp look, brother. I do think that's a sharp look because that's a lefty that's going to be overlooked in this lineup. People are going to want to take Reynolds. They're going to want to take Cruz. I think low is sharp. He's been a Rocky pitcher. Is he horrible? Jerry Davis. I keep trying to give this guy Lorenzen breaks. I think he is awful. I think he's awful. I don't think he knows what pitch. He doesn't have a plan. He has so many pitches. Like, it's hard to imagine that he could use all those pitches in a game plan that's successful. I don't know. It just don't seem right. He's giving up way too many barrels. And looking at like xERA, that xWOBA, like that stuff that's adjusted for ballpark, so Jermaine, welcome to the chat, brother. Welcome to the chat. All right, next game up. We got to keep going. A lot of games today. Reds, Nationals, 77% of bets, 56% of cash coming on the Reds. And then, we're basically looking at the same thing per odds logic. This line opened up at minus 143, and it's been stagnant. The 9, we had an open of 9.5. It's up to 10 at most shops. Let's see if that remains true. I mean, you're looking at 9.5 here. It's mostly 9.5's juice to the over, which I'm not surprised. The move from 9 to 10, a full run to the 10 is actually pretty surprising to see that. But when you look at when home teams close in this range, open in this range or close in the range for this matter, minus 150 to minus 135, with a total that closes between 9.5 and 10.5, the over is 40 and 22 to the over, 65%. If it's non-divisional, 30 and 17. If the total is moving to the over, it only improves the odds that it's going over. And in 2026, it's 4-0 to the over. Yeah, Cubs-Phillies, 14 runs. Mets-Cubs, 16 runs. Reds-Rockies, 15 runs. And the Rockies won that game. And the Athletics-Guardians, 20 runs. And like the first graphic I showed coming into this, like you look at the high totals, home favorites, high total, it's really tough to want to back this Reds team with this high of a total, looking at the historically how they've performed, because it has not been damn good. You look at Singer and Mikolas, I don't know how you trust either of these two pitchers. Singer with the 5.74 xERA, his K rate got cut in half. He's getting blitzed by every offense he sees. He's getting killed by left-handed hitters. And the Nationals are a left-handed dominant offense. Versus left-handed hitters, 91 at-bats this season, 374 batting average, 986 OPS, and a 2.0 whip. Singer's been awful. And then you look at Mikolas, and I think he actually might be better than Singer, which is saying a lot because at least he gives you a veteran presence. He was all-star caliber, so he has the mind, the IQ to be able to find some success on the mound. The problem is he gets behind in counts. He doesn't have enough stuff. He doesn't have good stuff to be able to attack the zone, so he falls behind in counts. Then he has to throw his fastball, which ends up middle way too much, and it gets crushed. So I'm on the over in this game. I don't mind the 9.5. I don't mind the 10 juiced, with less juice. If you want to get no big, plus 100 at the over 10, I think that would probably be the way I play it, because if this game's going over, this game's going way over. I'll take 3 Ks and 9 at-bats against Lorenzen. I swear, when I was looking at props, this is back before I built the database, and I was betting some props, some hit props, total bases. I started looking at batter versus pitcher splits in history, and actually that just got me into more trouble than anything. And that's why I don't touch on it very much, because I'll touch on it as a collective, but not individual players, just because, it's gotten me into trouble. It's gotten me into trouble. I don't know. I don't like Lorenzen. I think this game's going over. All right, next game up. This is a game I don't have a massive opinion on. We got the Red Sox and the Phillies, 2 teams that are massively underperforming. We're looking at all the action coming in on Wheeler and the Phillies. This is no surprise. Now let's see if we got an updated market. So this is saying that this line is stagnant, and it has. So we've seen some 5 to 10 cent moves towards Philly. Now it keeps coming back to where it's opened, and the 8.5 is down to 8 now, juiced to the over. But when home teams close in this range between plus 115 and plus 130, between 8 and 9, with the line moving towards the road team, that'd be favorable for the road team. However, like I'm saying, this keeps coming back to neutral. This is not a clean read on the market. You got Wheeler on the mound, who's been great. And if you're betting the Phillies, you want to bet him when he's on the mound. He still throws the fastball changeup combo like a boss. He's got the split finger, which I talk about every time is meta. It's one of the most effective pitches. And he's almost doubled his usage of the split finger this season. And we all know the Red Sox lineup is dead last, the worst in baseball against right-handed pitching. You're going to have Bello. You're going to have a primary starter here, or you're going to have a primary that's Bello in this game. And he's gotten absolutely shelled in 5 of his 7 starts. His only 2 quality starts came against Detroit and St. Louis in low total environments. The velo is clearly down on both his sinker and his four seam. His arm angle went from 33 to 42 degrees. Usually when we see a drop in arm angle, it leads to success, especially for sinker ballers. Now, he raised his arm angle. So you have a sinker baller who's raising his arm angle, something, it just don't smell right. Because when you see the guys who are throwing sinkers that are having success, it's because they lowered their arm angles, and he's raising his. So maybe that's one of his major problems. I don't know. I'm not a genius or nothing, but that seems to be a very, very fixable thing for Bayo. I have a mental blockade. I don't want to sell low on the Red Sox and the Philly offenses. It's not something I'm comfortable with, mostly because of my principles when betting the NFL, and the success I've found in the NFL is not buying high and selling low. In the MLB, it seems to be a little bit of the opposite, where you kind of want to ride the trend and not try to catch a falling knife unless the market is absolutely screaming at you. So, yeah, I don't have any action in that game. I'm going to have to pass. Let's see if we have anyone in the chat. Koopa best with the Red Sox team total under minus 120. I don't blame you for that bet at all. If anything, I would be on the under in that game. But like I said, I don't want to fade the offenses just because they've been so bad. But maybe that's a fault of mine. And I'm leaving cash on the table, which definitely could be the case. All right, next game up, and this is a game I really like. This is the Blue Jays versus the Rays. I bet you this is a game that I like, and nobody else in the chat will like. Let's see. If you got action on this Blue Jays versus Rays game, let me know what you're betting on in this game. This is a fascinating spot here. So many different variables we have to account for. First of all, we already know the public, everybody in the world. I'm not shocked. We're looking at a bunch of action and cash coming in on the Rays. But what I am shocked about is we're looking at a Corbin versus McClanahan game, and the line is down to minus 115. All this cash is coming in on the Rays. Clearly, like, it doesn't take a genius to know that everyone's betting the Rays in this spot, and this line is actually moving towards the Blue Jays. So we've seen a 3-cent move. Some books have shown bigger moves, but if you look at divisional home teams, and I do have a graphic for this game, if you look at divisional home teams that open between minus 110 and plus 110, like the Blue Jays have in this situation, with a total that closes between 7.5 and 8.5, The home team is 47-29 straight up, 62%. If the line moved 15 cents or less, that improves to 42-20, 68%. If over 50% of cash in the bigger bets is coming in on the road team, 24-10, 71%. In 2026, it's a perfect 5-0 this market. And the Blue Jays in this sample are 3-1. The Rays in this sample are 1-4 straight up. This is the perfect confluence. This is the progression I talk about that I like to see when I'm making a bet. And to me, this market is so overwhelming that I'm left with no other option but to move on the Blue Jays. Now, it's just how much are we going to move on the Blue Jays? And that's good for the graphic, Vic. It's just how big do we want to bet the Blue Jays, because we know that they're going in one direction and the Rays are going in the other. I fully expect regression for these two teams, but we got Corbin on the mound. It's hard to back Corbin. I get it. And the underlying numbers suggest massive regression, 3.60 ERA, 6.19 xERA. But it's proof. To me, Corbin is proof that an old, washed-up, crafty vet can still bring value to a team. He's only allowed more than 2 runs in one start. And since then, he's gone over 5 innings in each start, allowing 2 runs or less. That's pretty damn impressive. He still works with the same deal, sinker-slider combo, breaks in opposite directions. He went to Tampa Bay just recently and pitched a quality game. And Tampa Bay versus left-handed pitching is 25th since April 20th. I want to fade this team's offense, first left-handed bats. Obviously, we expect regression from Corbin, but to what extent? And just as much as I expect regression from Corbin, I expect regression for the Tampa Bay Rays in the win-loss column. McClanahan, he's been great. 7 starts, 107 whip, 2.60 ERA, 3.55 xERA. So, yeah, some regression there, but still regression to an above-average profile. But he's not quite as electric as he was in 22-23. He's pretty damn close, but his walk rate, his rows, his hard hit percentage is slightly up. He's got a little bit of a lower chase rate. And we watched Shane throw a gem versus this exact Toronto lineup not too long ago. But his last 3 starts, and this is kind of what allowed me to move on this game and like the matchup, is his last 3 starts, 17 inning pitch, 10 hits, no earned runs. That's a 0.87 whip. He's absolutely dominated. 3 starts, no earned runs. But all of those games were at home. On the road this season, 5.14 ERA, 2.18 OBA, and a 1.36 whip. I think the change of scenery will be a bad variable for Shane here. And Toronto versus left-handed pitching is actually better than I thought since April 20th or 19th. Yesterday, the database had the Rays on the money line. We've seen a massive move in their direction. It's time to zag with the Blue Jays. And I like the idea of fading McClanahan on the road after 3 perfect starts and fading the Rays win-loss column, essentially. I'm on the Blue Jays plus 112 for a unit. Breach, Wager Detective. Blue Jays are nothing. Come on, baby. Let's go. Wager Detective. Yes, sir. Bringing the database, bringing the information, bringing that 6,000 game sample, which I'm very proud of. 6,000 games dating back to 2023. And every week I add more. Every week we become stronger. Interesting breakdown. Thank you, Swiggy. Thank you. Colin Gregory. Let's fucking go. I like it. Let's go. Big ball. We got brass balls in the chat, man. Seems like everybody's saying the same thing about the Rays and Pat C. Pat Corbin. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Ray Lock 68. McClanahan is also due for regression. You can't pitch all season without allowing runs. Yeah, I know. 3 straight games, 0 runs, all at home. Now, the funny thing is, I was thinking about that because I wanted to move on this spot for 2 units. The only thing that kept me off is he is still going to be indoors in an environment where he's comfortable, like it's in division, right? So it's a little bit less favorable situationally. Rabbit. My guy Rabbit. Everybody's saying the same thing about the Rays and Pat C. Pat Corbin. What are you saying? Everybody wants the Rays. They want to fade Pat C. We're back in Pat C here today. Regression for both. I agree. I think the price is too anything plus is great on the Blue Jays, even minus 105. Anything up to minus 110, I would definitely fully endorse and would still be on it if I didn't move last night when I did publish this bet. Next game up, another game where we do have a little bit of a graphic we could touch on, but we got another disaster, a train wreck. The New York Mets against the Tigers. 72% of bets, 41% of cash is coming on the Mets. Most offshores are stagnant, but the book I use shows 7-cent move towards the Mets. Now it's back to neutral. And other books, offshores like Circa, are starting to move this line towards Detroit. We look at the market history, which I do have a graphic for, this very similar graphic. And I'm going to work on how these are portrayed, right? Because this is a stretched graphic. It's kind of hard to read when it's stretched like this. But I do think it does serve what I'm about to tell you better, is instead of just reading off numbers, you can kind of see what I'm talking about right here. And think back to that first graphic that I put up there prior to the show starting. When a home team closes between -170 and -140, with a total between 7.5 and 8, line moving towards the home team. The road team in this situation is 98-91, 52%. If the home team opened between -160 and -40, that increases to 59% in the 74-game sample. If it's non-divisional, that increases to 60%. The Mets in this sample, 3-11 straight up. Now, the Tigers aren't very good either. They're 3-7 straight up in the sample, not very good. However, the two of their 3 wins were against the Mets. I found that to be fascinating. So I love the market. I do think we have a massive edge. You can see versus the implied odds, which is 43.7%. At plus 129, you need to win 43% of the time to break even. Well, I believe the road team's winning here just over 50% clip based on this market history. And I look at the matchup. I think about the New York Mets bats, and that's good, Vic. You can pull it down. I think about the New York Mets and where they are. They got Peralta on the mound. He's a Cy Young candidate. I know he's a really good pitcher. He's not as good as he was in 2025. He's still really good. He's a fly ball oriented pitcher, which is going to fare out well. Good for him. His velocity has dipped a little bit, pretty much in every pitch in his arsenal. He makes it harder to get break on his curveball because his breaking run value is down and his arm angle drop parlayed with a curveball. So his off speed is a curveball, or not his off speed. His breaking pitch is a curveball. So he's dropping his arm angle, throwing a curveball. Work well with a slider, not with a curveball. And I think that's showing in his numbers. Tigers versus right-handed pitchers, 15th since April 20th. And on the other side, you have another guy, Flaherty, who's been an absolute fade. However, his xERA has dropped over his last 3 starts consistently from 6.4 to 5.2 to 4.75. His big issues obviously been the walks. His first 6 starts, he averaged 4 walks per game. His last 3 starts, only 2 walks per game. Massive improvement. And his fall from grace in 2024, where he was dominant, is noticeable. His breaking run value, his whiff percentage, his K percentage, all that fell. It's because the slider isn't working against left-handed hitters anymore for whatever reason. I couldn't put any rhyme or reason to it, but he's up against this New York Mets team whose bats are 28th versus right-handed pitching. The only team worse than this New York Mets team on the season versus right-handed pitching is the Boston Red Sox. So I did, I've caught the falling knife with the New York Mets multiple times this season. That's not going to be the spot today. Today I moved on the Tigers money line plus 131. AM, that wind's blowing out, huh? Dre, what's up, Dre? Welcome, bro. I appreciate you hopping in. Dre, when this is all done, you got to circle back to the very beginning of the video. Would be interested to hear your thoughts on the graphic I put up. Rabbit, I'm saying regression for both. Yeah, I do. So, yeah, I'm on the Tigers money line here. You know me. I'd be willing to catch a falling knife with the Mets. Not today. All right, we got to start blitzing this. Braves, Cubs, 68% of bets, 52% of cash on ATL. Atlanta opened minus 122. There was an 8-cent move towards them. Then we see a full U shape in the market, right back to where it opened. Circa moved the line 5 cents towards the Cubs. So did offshores like Bovada. And the total from 9, now it's, it was juiced to the under. Now it's all the way down to the 8.5, which that's my only concern because this market is fantastic. If you remember my breakdowns, which I was posting on X, Troy Torrance 11 at X, I was posting about the Braves and the Dodgers market, which I went 3-0 in that series. And it was all because I was looking at the profiles with another, through the lens of both teams being good teams, quality teams, both teams records over 50%. And when you do that in this short price range, both teams over 50%, the short home favorite, with all the cash coming in on them, the road team is 40-25 straight up. That's 62%. And if that total drops, now that disclaimer I was talking about, when that total does drop, it does make this profile 50-50, so much less value. But I still like it. I still think the Cubs are worth the bet. You got Ray on the mound, who I think is just, what you see is what you're going to get. The underlying metrics match the peripherals. He could get swing and miss, which is huge, whereas Grant Holmes cannot do that. And he relies on extension. He's top 20th percentile, in extension and deception, in my opinion. And he throws the splitter, which is meta, which is increased. Like I said, splitters meta. Everybody's increasing their mix. If they throw in a splitter, it's increased at least 2x from what they were on. It was a 60% increase this year, but still. And obviously Atlanta smashes right-handed pitching, but so does the Cubs smash right-handed pitching. What lineups does this Holmes guy face? Colorado, Philly, Miami, the Angels, Arizona, KC. None of these lineups are in the same conversation as Chicago Cubs. I think Holmes is going to be shelled here today. I really do. Cubs are coming off some offensive suppressing performances. I think this total that opened at 9 is telling that there's going to be some runs here. I think we have a starting pitching favorite. We have an edge and advantage with the starting pitching. I think the bullpens, the Braves have a better bullpen, and the lineups are pretty much a wash. So if you're going to give me plus money on a team that's, through those 3 categories is a wash, and with a favorable market, I'm betting it every time. But I bet the Cubs first 5 money line with the intentions to live bet if they do get down. I'm on under 8, not strong enough in Citi Field. Yeah, Jerry Davis on the under in New York Mets. Okay, yeah, I got to keep going because we got a lot of games to get to. Brewers, Padres. This is a game that I did move on. I bet the Brewers yesterday. I posted on X because the CLV grab analysis suggested that this is the best move to make. This is going to be the game that moves. You're going to close with value. And the other thing we're looking for, the other element we're looking for with the CLV grab analysis is we want to close in a historically profitable range, which is what the Brewers are doing here today. As long as this line closes between -150 and -115, I'll be very happy with that close, and we will close in a favorable market. I know I'm not very excited to back Sproat, who's got a 5.04 xERA, not very impressive. There's not much to really like about him. His breaking run value is 3rd. He's got a 3, bottom 10%. He struggles to throw it for strikes, and that's really the problem. and he struggles to incorporate the tunnel with his sinker and cutter. So he's got some problems, but so does Waldron. None of his arsenal is really impressive. His fastball run value is average. His breaking run value is bottom 5%. His off-speed run value is non-existent because he's throwing the damn knuckleball. And on the road, he's been terrible this season. At Colorado, 5 innings pitched, 8 hits, 6 earned runs. Against the Angels, 3. Okay, yeah, you should discount that, right? That's in Colorado, the thin air, the altitude, right? Well, against the Angels, he goes into LA, 3.2 innings, 8 hits, 6 earned runs, almost the same exact performance, only worse because he went less innings. I'm on the Brewers money line. I bet it at -122. I would endorse it up to 56.5%, which is pretty close here, -130. Yeah, I mean, if you're getting -130, I would still endorse it. So anything over -130, I would start to slam the brakes a little bit on Sproat and the Brewers. But I think the Brewers are going to be able to manufacture runs that the San Diego Padres bats will not be able to respond. Now we get to the White Sox and the Royals, and I am absolutely bullish on this. Troy, your Cubs bats suck right now. Hell yeah, Jerry. Hell yeah, they do. They struggle down there. Well, they caught DeGrom, and then they also was it game 1 of that series? One of the games they kept loading the bases. They had a ton of opportunities. Their expected batting average is over 300, and they could not score runs. Yeah, I get it. DeGrom, 1 game. So I would say 1 game. The last game they played, their bats were absolutely dead. All right, well, White Sox, Royals. This will be the last graphic I do have in this game. We're looking at the sharp action coming on the White Sox. We're starting to see some movement towards the White Sox. Most books move this 5 cents in their direction, including the likes of Circa. And this is very similar to the opening range with the Blue Jays market. And this is where tying this all the way back to the first graphic we talked about with how a total impacts my expectations for a game. If you could pull up the graphic I have with the market interpretation graphic, so we could look at those two side by side between the Blue Jays and the White Sox, because the total range is so important. We have both teams opening in the same range. We're talking about the open between -105 plus 115. In Toronto, the difference is the total 7.5 and 8. The home team's winning 61% of the time. Line movement on the side in that case with the low total, 44%. The steam, if you're chasing steam, you're losing money. Line movement on the total, 63%. And Vic, I don't know if you have the graphic ready for this one, but I thought this one would be the most, because you'd be able to delineate. There she is. There she is. So if you look at this, so you're looking at the blue bars, the Blue Jays, the white bar, or the black bars, the White Sox, and you're seeing the bottom. Home team win percentage is the first 2 boxes. because of the low total, right? 7.5, 8. Blue Jays winning 61% of the time. You got a high total with the White Sox Royals, home teams winning 48% of the time. Line movement, the efficiency on the side is lower with the Blue Jays, higher with the Sox, and inverse on the total. And I think that this is how you would explain this type of graphic. The high total implies volatility and suggests the home dogs pitcher is vulnerable. The low total implies less volatility and suggests the home dogs pitcher is going to be competent in that start. Now, if we get the high total parlayed with a move towards the home dog, that flips the implications, and that's exactly what we're seeing in this spot. And I did move on the White Sox first 5 because of this graphic exactly. I just wanted to see that line start to trickle towards the White Sox. And now we get into the matchup. Fetty, I like him. I do like him. Something you need to know about Fetty is that he whops 17-38 style. Somehow he toggles between a good season and a bad season. You can pull that down now, Vic. In the case of Fetty Wap, it's pretty straightforward. If his sweeper is working, he's going to post a good start. If not, the offense is going to be able to do damage. The sweeper is by far his best pitch and his most used pitch. Everything else profiles well below average. And Kansas City Royals are 7th versus right-handed pitching since April 20th. But the problem is, on the road in that same time span, they're just 28th with 74 WRC plus. All that damage was done at home. And this is the same offense that went into Sacramento and to play the Athletics and put up 6 runs in 3 games. And that is if you omit the extra innings. 6 runs in 3 games in a AAA ballpark in Sacramento with totals that were 9.5 to 11. And Fetty has great numbers first to hit, great historical numbers versus Kansas City. I look at Kolek. I backed him in his first start. And he only has 1 start on the season. I think that there's a problem. He has a unique pitch usage through 1 game. I mean, versus right-handed hitters, 75%. He's basically throwing the slider every single time to a right-handed hitter, and that just shows me he has a lack of confidence. And I just think that he's going to be vulnerable in the spot. And based on the recent performance of these 2 teams, I could totally see that coming to fruition. I'm on the White Sox first 5 money line at plus 110. The White Sox are no longer in the basement. They're actually a competent team. I think they put that on display in this matchup, and I'm isolating Fetty and Kolek in this matchup. Kolek's first road start, I want to fade him. I think there's a lot of confluence in that game, in that market with the matchup. All right, let's go. We got to keep running. Twins, Marlins. This is a game I do not have any action on. We're seeing a lot of the action coming in on the Twins, 50% of bets on the Twins, only 61% of the cash. So, and we're seeing a lot of love for this over, and the over makes a ton of sense. And this is a very nuanced and sensitive price range. This very short home favorite, as short as you can get, right? Minus 112 will turn this into a favorite. They're minus 12 right now. So it's a very sensitive market. That's why I wanted to stay away from it. Ultimately, market history would lead me towards the Twins, but I look at Bailey Ober, I look at Yuri Perez, and I look at the underlying numbers, and I want to fade both of these guys. Ober, his K rate dropped 4 consecutive years. It's down to 17.8%. And I feel like that's not good versus a Marlins team that doesn't strike out very often. His velocity on his fastball dropped from 90 to 88. He's throwing an 88-mile-an-hour fastball. So now the split between his fastball and his changeup is 5 miles an hour at a low speed. That's not enough. That is not enough. Miami has not been great versus right-handed pitching since April 20th, but they're decent on the year. I feel like they're going to be league average. And Yuri Perez, his command has slipped terribly. Highest whip of his career. His walk rate's up by 50%. He's in the bottom quadrant for right-handed pitching in terms of ground ball percentage. He doesn't get ground ball percentage. All that with an uptick in velo. Obviously, he has all the tools to be an elite pitcher, but he hasn't proven that. I'm passing on this game. I would have to be on the Twins based on the market, but I don't want to do that. That's definitely a pass for me. All right, we're kicking it over to the Rangers and the D-backs. We're looking at the sharp action coming in on the Snakes. If you're looking at the public books, the recreational books, the public is actually fading the Snakes and buying the Rangers, and I don't know why that would be the case. The history of this market is definitely 50-50. Some variables flip this in favor of the Rangers. Some variables flip this in favor of the D-backs. Ultimately, based on market history, you will lose less money betting on the D-backs. That doesn't necessarily you're going to make money in the long run betting the D-backs. You look at Mackenzie Gore, and he's coming off 2 bad road starts against the Yanks and the Mariners. He's been better at home, but it's been against weak lineups. He has reverse splits too. Left-handed hitters hit him harder, and they have a significantly higher on-base percentage, which matches up perfectly with the D-backs this season, who also has reverse splits, right? D-backs, you'd think they would be able to hit right-handed pitchers. Well, they've been dominating left-handed pitchers, which is kind of surprising to me and probably is going to regress significantly as the year goes on. Gallen, 5.41 xERA. Can't believe to see that next to his name. This is the worst season of his career if he continued on this path. And each year, the past 3 years, he's progressively gotten worse. His last two starts, 10 innings, 13 hits, 10 earned runs, 5 walks. It's been terrible. The biggest positive for Gallen is he's still inducing a ton of ground balls at some of the highest rates in the MLB, but offenses are definitely putting the barrel on the ball. Problem is Texas has not been putting the barrel on the ball pretty much ever in recent history. So I can only back the D-backs in this spot, but there's no value. I feel like in this current number, I feel like you're going to lose less money betting the D-backs. So that's the side I lean. My boy Top Set just hit the chat, and I'm just picturing myself check raising out of position with Top Set. With Top Set. If anyone knows that feeling, man, drop a like on this video. What it feels like to flop Top Set. Jesus, man, I need to get back on the poker table, on the felt, and go get some cash, chase down some fish. All right, let's get to the Astros and the Mariners. I was on the under in this game. I posted the first 3 under 2.5. I had the full game under 9. I live bet it when the first 3 under obviously went up with 3 runs in the first, but I'm liking this matchup again. Right now, we're looking at basically all the action coming in on the Mariners. Actually, at Odds Logic, 34% of bets, 56% of cash on the Astros, and the bookies laughed in the face of that sharp action. They said, "Oh, okay, you like the Astros at this number? We'll give you an even better price to buy some Astros." Mariners. Basically, we're seeing a 10-cent move towards the Mariners across every single book. And divisional home teams that open in this range, if the line moves towards the home team, they're winning over 50% of the time. That's pretty damn good, right? But this is not the case. The line's moving away from the home team. They're only winning 38% of the time. The more variables you add, the worse it looks for the divisional home dog with the market moving away from them in this price range. And it's 8.5. This is the most efficient total number. This is where we trust the model, we trust the bookies and the steam they're applying to the game. I look at this pitching matchup. We're looking at Imai. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but I can tell you he's ass. He should be due for positive regression, right? 7.27 ERA, 4.06 xERA. He's had 3 starts. He only went into the 4th inning in 1 start, and it's honestly counterintuitive to see that. On the road in Sacramento, it just made no sense to me. He's a 2-pitch pitcher, and I don't know if he's going to add any more. He has a split finger that he's only thrown 7 times, but none of them were even close to the strike zone. It's not a competitive pitch at the moment, so he's definitely got to add more pitches to his arsenal if he wants to be effective. He hasn't pitched since April 10th, so it's really hard to project what this might look like, but I want to back Seattle against right-handed pitchers. Their bats hit right-handed pitching. Since April 20th, they're 5th, they're 11th on the season, and they were 3rd all of last season. I think Imai's in for another tough start because we know the Mariners need to win games. Then you got Wu, who, he should be great. He should be a Cy Young caliber pitcher. We backed him 4 starts in a row. So if you go back to he had a great last start, but the 2 starts before that, he got blown up. I was questioning his approach. Then he came back. I backed him against Atlanta. He went 6 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs. And the main issue, if you looked at those 2 bad starts, was his sinker. His sinker was missing middle far too often. In 2025, he had a 238 xWOBA with his sinker. In 2026, a 397. If you look at the spray chart, it's all middle. Last year, it was all at the edge of the zone. I feel like he's going to be fine. I feel like that's all I needed to see to understand what was happening because all of his pitches profiled well except for the sinker, which was a great pitch for him last year. I think we're going to see regression. I think he's going to continue to dominate. I moved on the Mariners' first 5 money line minus 155. I took the money line because I do think the underplays in this game as well. Less volatility, which means that the money line price should be considered more heavily. Great work, Troy. Thank you, Wager. Thank you, Jerry Davis. Troy Gore spot for me and under. Rangers are under 15-2-1 this season. And that date, Jerry Davis, that dates back to last season as well. That 15-2-1 trend of the under dates back to last season for sure. All right, we have another game that the last 2 games I've absolutely hammered. I've hammered these last 2 games, and this is, I know we only got 10 minutes left on this show. I still got to touch on the NBA and the 2 NHL games quickly, but I want to focus on these 2 games because this is where my edge absolutely exists. The Athletics and the Cardinals, 63% of bets, only 22% of cash is on the Athletics. Per odds logic, 62% of bets, 79% of cash on the Athletics, 63% of bets on the under, but 87% of cash is on the over. And what have we seen this total do? We've seen it drop from 10.5 to 10. Some books are starting to show 9.5. And if you look at the matchup, I agree 100%. I'm looking at the total in this game. And we can look at the market history. It's a very small sample because we don't see a lot of totals opening over 10.5, unless you're in Colorado and they're opening as dogs. This is a favorite. This is a big, moderate to big home favorite with this big total. It's very small samples we're working with. So I decided, especially in this AAA ballpark, that it was just best to isolate the Athletics. What have they done in this type of market? And at home, the A's basically at home, priced above -130. They're 4-10 straight up, 11-3 to the over. But if you look at the average cash flow in that sample, 68% of bets, 70% of cash is on them, which was shocking to me. That's not what we're seeing this game. So it's a little bit of an outlier. But if you isolate that to non-conference with a total greater than 7.5, so a high total, right? Because the low totals in a AAA ballpark in Sacramento, that's telling you that these games are going to be the totals are way too low. It's an outlier, right? This is more of where we expect the totals to be in this park. So I wanted to get rid of that part of the sample, and I wanted to look at out of conference specifically. Not one game in that sample, 7-game sample, 6-1 to the under. Not one game went over 10 runs. I love to see that because I look at what I'm seeing with this pitching matchup, and I love what I see. St. Louis first left-handed pitching, yet Springs on the mound. Left-handed pitcher, 348 xERA. St. Louis dead last in the MLB and by a wide margin. If you look at the lefties that are shutting them down, it's not like it's a really impressive bunch. Springs is a crafty vet, low velo, quality breaking pitches, good command, and elite sequencing. I think he is, he's devastating splits versus left-handed hitters, and a lot of the production comes from the left-hand side of the plate. Also, Walker, a lot of production from him. He's not been hitting left-handed pitching. Then you got Palante. So I think Springs is going to deal. Then you look at Palante, 137 whip, 444 xERA. He's about average. He's a tale of two cities. He has the ability to post a quality start. He also has the propensity to get blown up like he did against Milwaukee. But his pitch mix is about as freaky as it gets nowadays. The fastball, the slider, the sinker, the knuckle curve, and the splitter. Left-handers do damage. And Athletics are top 5 versus right-handed pitching, so that's definitely something to consider. But he gets a ton of ground balls, which is huge in this AAA ballpark where we should see more home runs than any other, more home runs per at bat than any other ballpark in the MLB. Because of his polarizing nature with Palante, it's hard to really project what he's going to be. Maybe he gets blown up, but I think he's due to pitch well. And I think that the A's coming back home after this bit long road trip where they found some success. We've seen that happen before. They came home and it was a 1-1 game heading into the 10th inning against the Royals. I love, and not to mention, Springs deals versus weak lineups and versus left-handed pitching. The St. Louis Cardinals versus left-handed pitching. You got Palante, who I think profiles perfectly for an under in this ballpark. Market history is strong in Sacktown with this type of market. And then you got 50% of bets, 90% of cash is on the over. This line's dropping over 30% now towards the under. I bet the first 5 under 5.5 at -118. This first 5 under I might add to that position as the night goes on. All right, last game up, and it's one of my favorite games. And it's a market that everybody who's actually been following me since 2023 knows this was really the first profile that made the database famous because it cashed so frequently. And it's so surprising because it's counterintuitive to everything I believe. We want to fade the big home favorites, right? We want to fade them unless the line is moving their way. The total's implying that there's going to be runs scored, which we're seeing in this game. It's over 7.5. And line moving towards a big home team. So I'll just give you a specific profile. Home teams that close below 275 with the line moving towards them and a total over 7.5. 53 and 15 straight up, that's 78%. 42 and 26 on the run line, that's 62%. And they're winning by 2.5 runs on average. I seen this market come into fruition yesterday. I bet it last night at -130. I bet it again at -140. And I got a Dodgers plus Mariners first 5 money line parlay. I have 3 units on this game. I always have 3 units on the cash cow profile. Yamamoto, I expect him to be fine against the weakest lineup in baseball outside of the Red Sox. And Hauser's coming off the best start of his season, maybe of his career, which is the perfect opportunity to fade him. His K percentage is well below average. His walk rate is above league average. LAD has sparked him. They have a 900 OPS versus him. all the big names in the Dodgers lineup has sparked him to Jerry Davis. You like that batter pitcher history. I think that we have some favorable stuff here. I know I know the Dodgers have had their trouble offensively, and I faded them successfully and recently. I lost with them last night. I'm going right back to the well with the Dodgers. -1.5 money line parlay. Thomas Maggio, I stayed off that game, but I would be on over in the Twins. I would be on over in the Twins in that game. We got 5 minutes left to hammer, and 3 games left. We got the Spurs, T-Wolves, NBA first up. Okay, we're looking at a lot of action coming on the Wolves per Action Network. Let's see what Odds Logic has for this game. We're seeing 52% of bets on San Antonio, 60% of cash. So there's the sharp square divide. I feel like the sharps are coming in on the Spurs. The public's coming in on the T-Wolves. The line opened 9.5. It's moved to 10.5. That favors the San Antonio Spurs. Game 1, the Spurs close -9.5. They lose by 2. Game 2, they close 10.5, and they smack them up by 38. Line functionality wins. Now we're looking at back in San Antonio, off a loss. The Spurs, open 9.5, get bet up to 10.5. I think that's a pretty telling sign that the Spurs probably are going to lay the hammer on this team. The total we've seen, we were watching this total drop from 218 to 217 to 216 over the past few games. Then it got to 218.5. Then it came back up to 218.5. And all these games have been going over. What I'm saying is I think that we have line functionality for the Spurs. I think we have it for the under. I've had conviction with this Wolves team, but after watching this series play out, it's pretty clear that they're inferior to the Spurs. The Spurs played the Wolves to a draw in Minnesota without Wemby. Line functionality is probably going to keep me off of picking the Wolves in this game. I don't know if I can bet against my team. That's been the only team that I really bet on this season that's continuously put money in my pocket. But I want to focus on the under too. I'm thinking about the under. They go under in game 1 by 13 points. Then we see them go over in games 2, 3, and 4, but they did it by progressively less amounts, by 10, by 6, and by 4. I feel like it's a strong sign to see the total back to where it was. So what can change to lead this to an under? Points off turnovers. Both teams allow 20 points, so 40 total points off turnovers. When teams have turnovers like that, they clean it up in the following game. The Spurs also allowed 50 points in the paint. You think that's going to happen with Wemby on the court? It's not going to happen, which means the Wolves are going to be highly dependent on a three-point shot, and the Spurs defense is great for three-point shooting teams. They're top 5 in three-point percentage allowed. So I want the under. And I don't know about a side. I mean, I know the right thing would be to take the Spurs. It would be to take the Spurs, take the under, and ride off into the promised land because I think you get that cash. Over to the NHL where I have spent the least amount of time out of these 3 categories. Canadian Sabres, we're seeing all the cash coming in on the Canadians per the recreational books. On the sharper shop, 71% of bets, only 35% of cash on the Canadians. This line opened -125. You can see it right there, down to -148. You look at game 1 and game 2, game 3, what happened with this market? This line functionality is perfect in this series so far, at least as it relates to the side. Sabres opened -135 game 1. They closed -142. They win by 2. Line moved towards them. That made sense. Then the Sabres open in game 2, -135. They get bet down to -130. They lose by 4. Then you flip the script. You Canadians at home, they open -125. They get bet up to -135. Again, line functionality and the steam is 3-0 because they won that game by 6. Now we're looking at the Canadians open back at -125 all the way up to -148. It's not 100% clear, but I would have to say like this line, it favors the Canadians. And that's despite the sharp action coming in on Buffalo. Even books like Circa moved this line 20 cents. Just based on the market alone, because I can't speak to the matchup, I would be on the Canadians. And the last game up right now, we got the Golden Knights and the Ducks. 90% of bets, 75% of cash. All the action, all the bets, all the cash is coming on the Knights. The line opened -160, -142 to -162. This might be backwards here. Let's see what this line actually did. We'll go 1 minute over here. Yeah, so the Ducks open -166. They're down to -122. This graphic, I don't believe, is right. And looking at the line functionality, game 1, Knights at home. Knights open minus 166. They close minus 175. Line moved towards them. They win by 2. Game 2, Knights open minus 162. It closes minus 155. The line moved away from them, and they lost by 2. So again, in these 2 series, we've seen line functionality and line movement be dominant and supreme over any matchup data that you could probably provide. Then if you go, now we're looking at a 166 again. All 3 of these lines have pretty much opened at 166. Now it's getting bet down again. You know, I just feel like this is definitely a spot where you can only look to take the Ducks. I couldn't step in front of all this in the Duck. Like, there's no way I'd be caught on the Golden Knights with this line movement and this opening line, especially considering that the Ducks open. The Ducks won Game 3 actually. This is Game 4. This is a little trickier spot. This is a little trickier spot than I had thought. But I guess I would lean towards the Ducks. I'm not very confident in this game, as I am in any NHL game. There's no way I can be confident. Man, whew, that was a mouthful. Hopefully I got this shit done, and hopefully I help somebody move on a bet that cashes. I appreciate all the support, everyone that brings me support each and every week. Thank you so much. I don't know how I could ever repay you. Maybe at Pubapalooza one year. If you ever come to Chicago, please holler at me. I will meet you up. We'll go to a Cubs game. We'll go to a Bears game. We'll get a beer. We'll get a drink. Whatever you want to do. Always looking forward to meet the Pub Sports gang. Really appreciate this community. Really appreciate this opportunity that Slaughter gave me to do this show. I think there's going to be more shows, more videos coming from me in the future. And very excited about that. And that's going to wrap it up for today. Closing line for May 12th. 2026. Thank you again to everyone who supports me. I'm Troy Torrance. You can find me on X at Troy Torrance X11. You can find me at Facebook and Instagram and all that as well too if you want to. I'm here every Tuesday and Thursday at 5 p.m. But my boy Peter Loshak's here every other day of the week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, to bring the goods. And as I always say, man, it's 100% true. I've been grinding my ass off since 5 a.m. Haven't moved from this chair. Now it's time to get up, go watch our investments flourish, and start getting a move on tomorrow's slate. Good capping, good luck, and I'll see your ass on Thursday.
It's easier to sleep in the black when you're losing your ass and feeling so. You know what to do. Tune in to Pub Sports Radio. Easier to sleep in the black. It's easier to sleep in the black. It's a roller coaster ride, you're gonna catch a bad beat. No problem, keep your head up and just bet the spreadsheet. It's easier to sleep in the black. It's easier to sleep in the black. All thanks to Jeff Slaughter, these shows have our backs. POD's always rolling, especially the stats. Easier to sleep in the black. It's easier to sleep in the black. We got Jimmy, Jose, Dabby and the fam, Dutch wine time, Spooner and OG Wham. So hit the like button, don't say that you can't. If you know what's best, just put your money on tape.